What if I told you the way it has always been done is not the best way? Facing your fears will change your life. The passion behind this journey is merging two separate worlds into one with the goal of creating value and awareness for a better life.
I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery.
This episode is brought to you by R&R Pipeline, an infrastructure company. Our purpose? Enhancing America's infrastructure with a safety-driven, integrity-led culture that provides an environment for team members to grow and thrive. Welcome to another edition of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast. And today is a special day for myself. This man sitting on the other side of the screen, he may or may not have superpowers. I don't know. We'll talk about that later. He is a special human all across the board. He is a coach of mine and strategic coach. He is through and through a visionary entrepreneur. And we met with some similar backgrounds as far as adversity becoming the fuel to drive us to be better. Both have interesting adversity and challenges in life that became our reason and our purpose that fueled our passion. Stephen Nuener. He is the visionary of Barnhill Vineyards, co-owner of Superpowers. Shout out Dane, Superpowers is amazing. If you don't have an executive assistant, I'm just going to say virtual assistant is the way to go. Get you a Superpowers by going to Superpowers. We'll talk more about that later. He has his own podcast, The Next Level Show, and he is an entrepreneur coach and strategic coach. He has done much more. The Big Wheel Growth Partners, he writes children's books. But I want to start, Stephen. Well, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. This is an absolute honor, but I really want to start with how Iron Wellness Fitness has built your personal infrastructure and that foundation that it has laid for you as an entrepreneur and as a coach of entrepreneurs.
All right. Well, first off, right back at you, man. I love you. I'm grateful to be here, hanging out with you, and just grateful to be friends with you, man. I mean, I get to coach you, but I trust you, my friend. I'm learning from you every time we're together. So just always awesome to spend time together. In regards to how did you phrase it? I loved how you said that. Say that again.
Yeah, so how the Iron and Wellness and Fitness has built your personal infrastructure. I mean, that's where the name of the show came from, because the heavy equipment that I ran as a kid, and then leaning on the weights as a young fat kid who was, picked on for my weight and insecure, I went to the Iron to build confidence in myself. And 20 years later, it's the reason that I have the infrastructure, as a person that I do today. So how has the weight room or wellness and fitness impacted you from, being a young kid till now?
Well, I thought it was because it was just so obvious of how ripped I was here, man, in this in this screen here. But man, let me tell you, there are a few things in my life that have had the impact that weight training has had in my life, and honestly, just specifically weights. I grew up, with parents who loved me, and who did the best they could, but for their own set of circumstances and reasons, had a lot of personal turmoil in their lives that caused a lot of probably personal turmoil for me growing up. So I moved around a lot, and reinventing, like creating new friends and new locations, with every move, works well or it doesn't work well. And when I moved to Texas in my high school years, first of all, I was the smallest kid in my school at the time, smallest boy. And so I was small, I was weak, and I was not confident in any sense of the word, right? Not spiritually, mentally, anything. I was just a bit out of sorts. And that made me a really easy target, and where I moved to, for lack of a better way, just like to be a target to be bullied, quite honestly. And so there were a group of kids that one in particular, I think, if I look back, reflecting on it, was probably trying to fit into his group of the tough guys. And man, this guy just had my number, and he continuously was after me, continuously picking on me. I had done nothing to him that I know of, but I was a weak person in the herd, and so it went on and on and on. I got bullied some more, and I got bullied some more, and I walked around in fear. And it seems silly looking back, but at the time it was awful, and so I hated just about everything about it. And it got to the point where it took a head, and he just pushed me so far that I eventually broke down, and I fought him. And he was bigger, stronger, all those things than me, and we ended up having 3 fights in that same day. So we had a fight in the gym, they broke it up. Then we had another fight, broke it up, and then when we were going back to class, our locker rooms, we had another fight on the stairs. They broke it up. He ended up getting suspended. I think even the teachers knew who was the culprit. But anyway, that was just kind of like just a single story of many stories of where I just really just was really weak. And so I worked at a bike shop at the time. And it also sold fitness equipment. And there was a guy who worked at this bike shop who was like an incredible athlete. He had played short period of time for the Saints, and he was selling fitness equipment side by side with me. I was just some high school kid working a high school job, but this guy saw it to take me under his wing and take me to the gym. And so I went to the gym. And I was overwhelmed, one, by his strength and everyone that he was training with strength, but 2, just the complexity of the equipment. I didn't know what I was doing. I was, 135 pounds, dripping wet. But he stayed with me, and I stayed with it long enough that eventually all of that melted away. And so that began, around 16, 17 years old. And then really when I hit 18, 19, had a growth spurt and was, really started growing into my body and the potential and growing into the weights. It was absolutely transformational for me. And really, probably I don't want to overblow it, but in a lot of ways I got in a lot of trouble growing up, but I think it kept me out of a lot more trouble because, I stayed off drugs. I stayed out of alcohol. I stayed out of a lot of things that people, I think, medicate themselves with when things are tough. And so it was my stress relief. It was something that I could push myself with. I could get better. I could get stronger, and it didn't hurt that it made me look better too.
It's amazing. Everything that the weight room teaches us is so much more than the direct impact. There's such an underlying indirect impact, and something that you don't know when you start is going to happen. It builds confidence. It builds the ability to work at something frequently with not seeing a direct result. It takes a while to see results. It teaches you resiliency, because I know I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. We've talked about this. And when people ask, how do you do that? I just set my alarm clock and do it because it's a non-negotiable now. I don't want to do it every damn day. That would be a lie if I said I can't wait to wake up at 3 o'clock and go hit the weights. But I don't negotiate with myself. It's what I do. It's part of who I am. And doing something every day that is best for you, but not what you feel like doing, sets aside emotion and knows that this is non-negotiable. This has to be done because it makes me a better person for everyone else that I love and care about. And the resiliency, the confidence, translates into the ability to take risk and commit to things that you may not have before. Whenever tough times come about, instead of like what you said with the alcohol or any type of substance, I don't go to them things. I might go to the gym instead. I might go be at a bar. It's just a different bar. It's got weight on it. And it has built my internal infrastructure through and through. It has really built who I am all the way through. because I know that majority of my issues can be taken care of and resolved from that.
Yeah, there's so many things to it, man. So I'm a little bit older than you. So I've been actually training now for 30 years, right? So that introduction to it, I've largely stuck with it. Like, I mean, we're talking maybe less than, 5 times have I ever gone more than 2 or 3 weeks of it without hitting the gym in 30 years. And so, and I've been through all the seasons with it. I've had times where like in college, I was just going real heavy. I built a lot of muscle. I was ripped. I was like competition ready. I watched everything I ate, and then I've been in periods where, just like where I'm at now is like, I love it. It is fun. It would be the same as probably I would imagine someone be like, hey, it's 5 o'clock on Friday and I just got paid. I'm hitting a bar. I am at the point that I've been doing it so long. I don't think a lot. It's just it's my identity. People are always like, oh, well, what's your regimen? How are you going to push? What are you going to do? And I'm like, man, I just want to go in there. And if the guy's hanging out on the leg press, I know 5 other exercises I can do. I'm not worried about it. I'm not stressed. I'm just going to go in. I'm going to go do my thing. And I know at the end of the period, whatever I walked in with is going to have melt away. And so that's a great way to wake up every morning.
About it. That's so powerful.
And so
powerful, Stephen. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, I got in some trouble myself as a kid. My parents split up when I was 16 or 17, and I, because of circumstances, was provided opportunity to have freedom. And being a driven entrepreneur now, looking back, it makes so much sense. But I didn't understand then why I was so different. I couldn't stand going to school. I did not do well in school. I couldn't pay attention to save my life. And I didn't read a book for so many years. I thought it was dumb. I thought reading was ignorant to me. And now looking back, it was very ignorant to think that was the case. But I didn't have anything I was interested in because of the curriculum in school. When I struggled in school, I didn't fit in with anybody in my class, and I was pretty much a hybrid outlier in every form and fashion possible. And part of it was probably because of growing up and being that fat kid, and everyone that was in, the same age group as me let me know about being that fat kid and, getting picked on and whatnot. But I remember being told I needed anger management or there's got to be serious change in my life. And right after that divorce, and, I never went to anger management. But I started training with a boxing coach, and I was probably at a gym 3 to 4 hours a day at that point. And I tell you what, I never went to anger management, but I was pretty angry human until I left the gym that day. And then I was completely fine until the next day. It'd all come back eventually. But for the most part, I walk into the gym wanting to hurt people or be angry, and walk out wanting to hug people and help them lift them up. And I remember that crucial turning point in my life where it's like, man, there's something here that I will never let go of. And for me, that was 20 years ago. I am so thankful for that foundation because I didn't have it from, no one in my family lifted weights. It was not looked up upon. It was kind of looked down upon, in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was just like all Richard Simmons, whoever was that fitness guru at that time, or who my parents had seen. It just wasn't something that was noted as, should do this thing for mental and physical health.
Sure.
And so, for years, I just kind of went against the grain, but I could not listen to my environment. I had to create my own environment and go against the grain. And that carried over into my early years at R&R Pipeline, where everyone's going to happy hour on Tuesday at Applebee's, and I'm hitting the gym again or getting on a treadmill and doing personal development because I finally figured out I don't know anything about anything, and I need to learn a lot of information to get out of this pit that I'm in. And the only way that I knew to get out of that hole was to put down the shovel and quit digging and start climbing out. Mm-hmm. And it was personal development and the gym. Them two things are the reason that I'm sitting here today talking to you, the reason I'm a strategic coach. It's all been so powerful. And I want to transition into mentorship, coaching, and personal development. What has that done for you? Because that's the other side of the infrastructure that has absolutely built me.
Yeah. So obviously the short answer is it's done a lot. I want to circle back to one thing you said that I think is important is that, there comes a point where there's a choice, right? And there's a choice that you started hitting the gym, that I started hitting the gym. And what's neat about the gym, the physical part of that, is that I think that it is a great metaphor for so many things that are needed if you want to grow and get out of the pit. One, there's no one, you might get a spotter, but like you've got to lift the weight, right? There's no one lifting the weight for you. Like you got to go do that. If you want to go to the next level, you've got to make a commitment to go to that next level. You got to use some courage, especially you don't have a spotter around. You're not going to drop it on you and get stuck, right? Like there's so many things, right? But as you do it and you see it, and then eventually you see results. And like you said, the results aren't always immediate. Like a lot of times they take a while before you start to actually see the physical results. And so there's just so many great metaphors in this that then to me, they all stack. And it all begins with a choice that you're going to not, settle for just status quo, right? And so you take that responsibility and then fast forward. Now you're in coaching, you're in mentoring. But what is that? Like, quite honestly, like my sense of it for me, my experience with it is I had to be someone that was coachable. I had to be someone that was mentorable. I had to build with the raw material I already had so that I'd be in a position that I could learn from someone that had the experience and actually do something with it, right? I think a lot of, I'll talk anti-mentorship at first. I think there's a million mentors out there right now. I can watch hours and hours of YouTube. I can learn about anything in the world, but I see so few people go take that and put it on their weight bench and go lift the weights, right? And so like that knowledge, I can read all about the weightlifting. And I do have them. I have like some of the original, Arnold Schwarzenegger magazines, right? Like I loved Arnold growing up. And so, I have these old magazines from like the 80s, right? Like of him and, but if I had just only read them, right? And done nothing else with them, then we wouldn't even be here, right? So anyway, I just love one that you do that, and I think that there's something that's really, really important to that. I want to stop before I start talking about mentorship, but that to me is a distinction that I think is important in this conversation we're having.
Yeah, and the Arnold Schwarzenegger reference, and by the way, you got to send me a picture of them things. I got to see the magazines. So the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding was like the holy grail for me, and I still have a copy of that original one that I bought probably 20 years ago.
So good.
And it's like this thick, it's in my garage in my man cave bathroom, and I still have some of the old. I have a Conquer poster of Arnold. Arnold is forever going to be the GOAT for weightlifting. He really made the sport the sport. He took something that was kind of dying and foreign to main stage, life expansion. Everything that we do is because of that foundation. And to me, he will forever be the GOAT. One of my business partners in supplement company, Max Effort Muscle, used to work with Arnold personally and actually had a line of product for him, a supplement line. And that was the only product line I think that Arnold was ever a part of. He signed with Corey. And he has so many epic stories about going to his Christmas parties and spending time with him and going to his building in California and walking down the hallway to his office and seeing all these accolades and movie posters and sculptures and everything else that he had. He was a larger than life figure and still is. And he transformed the way the world works as far as weightlifting and what is possible for someone with that foundation, because as well as I do, the mantra of just being a meathead and all that has really died off. And now you look at your main entrepreneurs in the world that are admirable now, they all have a fitness foundation. Mm-hmm. Fitness and overcoming adversity from a young age is like the main driving force of successful entrepreneurs anymore. Learning how to overcome adversity and staying in shape and putting that first to give yourself or to give everyone else a better product to you. So powerful, Stephen. I cannot talk enough about it, what it's done for me. And then the challenges that you learn through that journey of weightlifting and overcoming adversity with it directly correlates to business. Business is an up and downers roller coaster. A hardship in your business is no different than an injury in lifting. You got to, reach out. If you don't know how to do something, overcome something, an injury, you go to a mentor or a doctor or someone that that can fix that, the same as, an issue in your business. So many translations there. And that goes directly into mentorship. Mentorship in itself for me is, I am a partnership person. I grew up in a very, very prideful industry. I did this, I did that. I, me. There was no collaboration effort. It was all competition. And it was like, let me show you how great I am, instead of just letting your work speak for it. It's amazing what you can achieve when no one cares who gets the credit. One of my favorite quotes ever, because to me, I don't need credit. I just want a team of successful people that love what they do and feel internal joy every day coming to do the thing, whatever it may be. And I want to help other people that are miserable because of not understanding, if you have a journey laid out for you in life and you know what you want to do and how you want to do it, life is pretty fun and there's a lot of joy in it. But if you're stuck on this hypothetical one day or this lottery ticket to get you out and you're not enjoying the journey, the joy is the journey. That's where the happiness comes from. All of the joy that I have now, I understand, is from today and tomorrow and doing the thing. The accolade, the external accolade to me is not the accomplishment. It's the internal feeling I get every day by doing what I do. And I feel fortunate to kind of figure that out at a younger age. But let's talk about mentorship for you and where it really hit you and what was the biggest impact it had on you.
Oh gosh, biggest impact. Okay. So I will say, and I will confess that a big part of my life, I was a beneficiary of some really great mentors that I had no idea they were mentoring me. And so I think one point that could be made here is, like, if you pay attention, there might be someone in your life right now that's mentoring you in a very cool way that you're unaware of. The one that stands out to me is my grandfather. Between my second and third my third stepmom and my dad, they were having issues in their marriage. And for a number of reasons, they thought it would be best that I go live with my grandparents. Now, my grandparents were at the age that they were, obviously they were empty nesters, right? Like, they had no kids or anything else. They were entrepreneurs. They were, building a technology company where they'd go into schools and they'd fix like overhead projectors, microfiche, like VCRs, stuff like that. And so anyway, I went and lived with my grandparents, and my grandfather in particular, who was my grandfather to me, he wasn't my actual blood. My grandmother had been remarried. And this man, he was the best, one of the best mentors I've ever had in my life. I mean, but I never knew I was being mentored. He literally just lived a really great model of a life. And so as a kid, seeing all this conflict of my parents and stuff, the only thing my grandparents, I remember them ever fighting about, was the thermostat. My grandpa would joke and he would say that he would walk around naked if it would solve that problem. And I would beg him, please, Grandpa, don't do that, right? Humble. The guy was like a Golden Gloves boxer. He was had full scholarship for diving on the swim team. But I never knew that stuff. I always found out from someone else. Obviously the entrepreneurial thing was a piece. There's a quote that's from a faith-based perspective. I'm a Christian, and one of the things there's a quote that I really love. It says, "Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words." I never once heard my grandfather mention the name of Jesus, but he lived the kind of life. He lived the kind of life that, he's one of these still to this day. Even never uttered his word. He's one of the best Christ followers I know. He's literally a model for me of just how to really treat people. And because it didn't matter if you were the superintendent of the school district or if you were the janitor, my grandpa cared about you. You knew it. He treated you with dignity, treated you with respect, right? And so he was teaching this master class to this kid who was just riding around. I thought it was just the muscle. And, I thought I was just picking up microfiche and loading it into a station wagon. I had no idea all these lessons he was teaching me, right? The only bad thing that man ever taught me was I finally broke the habit, but he taught me to like McDonald's at an early age. So, but other than that, man, I mean, you would just talk about it. So that would be the most profound. And I mean, it even affects me today. My heart for, with my friends my kids tell me about one of their friends at school that's struggling, or they're having, maybe they've lost a parent, or, they've got something turmoil going on in their family. My heart for those kids a lot of times is driven back to like how blessed I was to live with my grandparents. And it was just 1 year, but it was such a pivotal year that even now, like in my own marriage, in my own family, that the remnants of that 1 year with my grandpa is still paying dividends.
That is so incredible, Stephen. We have more in common, I think, than you even know now. So the biggest impact on my life was my grandpa, probably as well. From a foundation as far as being a good human and caring about other people. He is one of the main reasons why I was really inspired to actually go through with this podcast idea. Because there was a quote that is in a song, and it's, you die twice. One time, or the first time, is when you're buried. The second time is the last time somebody says your name. And when I heard that, I instantly thought of my grandpa and all these stories that I hear throughout the years. And I think he's 84 now, still alive. He's not in great health, but for 84 and what he has done in his life, it's absolutely amazing how good of health he actually is in. And he broke the generational curse. His dad never went out on a limb. And my grandpa, was told at 18, he maxed out at a supervisor job at a factory and said, someone's got to die or retire before you're going to advance. And that's probably going to be 10 years because no one's, on the docket to retire. And he put in 2 weeks notice that day, went out on his own, and basically was self-employed for 35 years after and created a great life for him.
Love it.
And my family, and kind of broke that, safe curse. And now I'm taking it to the next level. But that foundation was really from him. And I think the biggest foundation is being authentic, caring about other people. He was an outspoken Christian. I think he's still a deacon at the church now. And he's more involved now than he has been the last 10 years. We're driven. You understand it. I don't need to explain it, but very passionate. And every time I talk to him, it's just like, man, Grandpa, I didn't know that. And whenever I first came up with this idea, he was the first person that I actually interviewed. And so I brought him in and sat him down for about an hour and a half, and I had him read off some quotes as well. And he's the one that actually introduces the podcast.
Ah, that's him. I've listened to it.
Voice at the end that you hear.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's him.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful, man. I feel even more honored to be on your show now.
It was an honor for me to sit down, and as I was doing the interview, I remember in my head, I'm just sitting here thinking, I will look back on this for the rest of my life, and I will cherish that moment forever. It was like a memory as it was happening because I was so present. It was so surreal to be able to do that. And, Steve Jobs had talked about connecting the dots. So many times in life, we don't know why something happens. And you can't connect the dots until all the dots are there, and then you look back and connect them. And I'm sure you can relate to this, but I now understand my life so much more because of situations. But the real change in tying it all together happened the first day I met you in Strategic Coach. So I had opened up after you opened up and introduced who you were. First time we ever met was the beginning of a 3 to 4 week connecting all the dots in my life. That was the day one, though, because I spoke about something in public I never spoke about before, in that setting. And that day forever changed my life. And it wasn't but a couple weeks after that, I connected all the dots and everything made sense. My life was so much more clear. So you have a special place in my heart, Stephen Nuener. I will just say that because that day and your willingness to open up about adversity and your situation changed my life because I was willing to do the same with a couple questions you asked. And it was almost like out of body experience, honestly, because I don't really remember why or what my thought was, or if I had a thought. I was meant to speak that day, and I thought it was something that could help other people. But honestly, looking back and connecting the dots now, I think it was really to help me, and I didn't even know it. So it's amazing how that all transpired, and I'm forever grateful for that. Connecting the dots, because it is so powerful when you get the chance to.
For sure. Yeah. Well, we're going to continue to build on it. I have no doubt, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's transition to something that I know you have, and I don't see your cape on right now. You might be hiding it. I don't know if you kind of wiggle your shirt, if you got a superhero outfit on underneath that green shirt or not. Let's talk about superpowers. I want to throw this to you, because the beginning of this year, I was in hell. So I am an organizational dumpster fire. I'm an organizational dumpster fire on nitrous. That's what I tell everybody. And if it comes to organization or admin, anything, checking email inbox or typing up emails, I probably have more drafts in my email inbox, or did, than I'm proud to admit. I probably missed a lot of opportunity within business because I was doing something I hated and I'm horrible at it. And that is hell to me. Now, I don't do any of it. I can't say the last time I really got my email inbox unless I was told to. And my assistant, Dane, in Superpowers, a company that you co-own and co-founded with Ryan Casson, has absolutely changed my life. And I recommend it to everybody. I am outspoken about it, because the person I am today, 6 months ago, didn't know this person today.
Yes.
And I'm sure that because, like normal, adversity has probably led you to giving everyone else superpowers. So here's your platform, Stephen. Tell me and tell the audience all about superpowers from the beginning to now, and thank you for starting the company.
Man, I love everything about what you just said. So thank you for how you've shown up to the process, how you like really poured into the relationship. As great as, I could give all the credit in the world to Ryan, who's already been on the show. He's, incredible friend, wonderful visionary, Amber, Chief Happiness Officer, the entire team, Dane. It's really special for me when I get to meet someone that really leans into it and accelerates the results the way that you have. So anyway, just huge hats off to you. I will share things that maybe you haven't heard before. How about that? Because I know that Ryan's talked a little bit about superpowers and everything else, but superpowers for me in the co-founding of it has really been a labor of love. Much of the things you and I have already talked about on this show is adversity, causing pain, causing frustration. You wrestle with it, you get some sort of breakthrough, and then for me and my nature, I like to contribute out of the overflow. So if I figured something out and I can keep someone from going through it, I want to do that. So my story with my first assistant was a wonderful woman who I'm still friends with, named Fern Knable. And she was just an amazing person. And true story, I did not seek to hire her. So we were growing our insurance business back in the day. We were blowing and going, kept growing. And my team staged an intervention. And so they basically said, hey, look, we love you. We appreciate you. We're glad that you're, adding people to the team, but you're literally the bottleneck on everything. Like you're literally killing us, with just all the things that like you're holding up. And so you need help. And so the team got together and they formed an audition process. The times were a little bit different from the job market standpoint at the time here in the U.S. And so what happened was they got a bunch of people together after hours. We had a number of candidates apply. They did an initial round of interviews. They invited them back. Then they gave them like projects. So they had to put like PowerPoints together, stuff like that. And so from that, I then got to meet my incredible assistant that was largely, I had some say, but it was largely done by my team because they knew what they thought was best for me. And we had the intro of the wonderful Fern Knable, who we jokingly call the queen of superpowers, if there were to be one. And so Fern was this amazing person that I resisted hiring. And by the way, all of my resistance to hiring for her was contrary to all the strategic coaching I had received. So I talked about being coachable. I leaned in fully to all things Coach said, and it really benefited my business. But this was the one area I resisted. And the truth of the matter is it was a personal hang-up of mine. I had a story that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve it, that like it seemed like a luxury. I had a whole bunch of head trash that, you know, the team really forced me, gave me a good little nudge into dealing with. And I got to tell you, man, it was an absolute game changer, changed my world. There were not just things in the business that I was holding up that we started unlocking. I mean, we easily got 5 times the return on what I paid her easily within the first like couple of years, just as with things just started unlocking and going and growing. I was working on my unique ability. But then out of that, what was really unexpected byproduct, and it ties into superpowers, is people started reaching out to me. They would always joke, like, because all I served was entrepreneurs. All my insurance clients were entrepreneurs. And so people would always be like, oh my gosh, Fern's amazing. Where do I get a Fern? And they were like, can I steal her? What are you paying her? And I'd laugh and they'd laugh. I literally had one friend who's super wealthy. He would always like kind of like cash shots. Like he's like, I'm going to steal her from you. How much does she make? And so anyway, it was like this ongoing thing. Well, I always would tell them, if you will hire an assistant, send them and they can sit and shadow Fern and they can learn how Fern and I work together if that's what you want. And then you'll learn. And so I'm not kidding, Jacob, for free, because I was serving an entrepreneurs organization at the time. I bet at least 20 entrepreneurs did I mentor, and did she mentor their assistants. And a lot of times I had to mentor the entrepreneur, because even Fern would do all of her magic and get the assistant in a really good spot, but it'd be the entrepreneur who wouldn't do the things you were doing. They were like, I got an assistant, but I'm still going to hold on to my email box. I'm still going to hold on to my calendar, right? And so I'd have to go and say, hey man, I love you. And I wasn't getting paid. It wasn't like I was losing money. It was like nothing to me, because I'd just go to them and say, hey, look, man, let me tell you how this works. Like, you're not going to get what you're looking at of the relationship. If you treat them as lesser and they're not good enough and they can't control, and you're going to control everything, you shouldn't even have one. You're wasting your money. And so little by little, I can't tell you how many I trained and mentored. And then what was cool is the feedback loop on that was neat, because the assistants, even after they would stop working for some of my entrepreneur friends, they would still reach out with Fern at their new jobs. And so it was like this cool little community that started. And so that for me was like sort of my genesis and my love, because when I saw entrepreneurs, one, I knew what I had, two, which were just doing it for free. And as I was seeing people get free, they'd come and say, hey, like, can I pay you for this? Like, you guys really did us a solid. Is there anything I can do? And I'd be like, just do something nice for Fern. Fast forward, Ryan, who you had on the show, and obviously we are friends with as well, he was actually one of the first entrepreneurs that we mentored. Like, so not just me with Ryan, but Amber, who's our chief happiness officer, was actually one of Fern's first mentees. So anyway, it's just kind of a cool thing. It started for me very much out of labor of love, and then it evolved into business where, we've had a lot of experience helping people get new levels of freedom and growth with the right fit executive assistants.
Mm-hmm. So incredible. I will have to say this, for anyone that needs help or has a sticking point and is willing to understand that they're only good at about 20% of what they're probably doing, and that's all that they're probably very good at, maybe great at. Maybe
some of us
really
are 5%.
Majority of entrepreneurs don't know any different. Yeah. That's it, and it's very, very rare that you actually figure it out and just do that 5%. Because I know for me, I'm still dialing into my unique ability frequently, because it's very, very hard to pinpoint sometimes, because it's a natural thing. It's something that you do unconsciously a lot of the time. You're good at it, always have been. And I think it always evolves as you grow into that unique ability. But the one thing I will say, understand, you said coachable a few times. For anybody out there that is a rugged individual and unwilling to accept help, you're only doing yourself, and if you're a business owner, you're a disservice. Delegating tasks that you are not good at and you don't like doing is one of the most freeing things that you can ever do. And for me, I used to dread thinking about organization and email inbox and doing this and doing that. And, half the time I wouldn't even know what to say and setting this meeting structure up, and I'd forget to put things on my calendar. And I don't do any of it now, and I don't want to, because Dane is excellent at it. She has created a process for my life, and I haven't done a damn thing but follow it. And the only roadblock or anything that she ever struggles with is me. I am the only bottleneck in my life. But when you get into that frame where you just know, I don't have to worry about that pain point anymore, because it's someone is doing it that I trust, that is way better at it than I am, and I'm good with it. I'm okay with not being good at things. I am more than willing to admit that I suck at something, and that's okay. I know that there's a very few things that I can do at a decent level, let alone a high level. I don't want to do the stuff I suck at, because I know there's someone out there that excels at it and enjoys it. And if I don't, there's no reason for me to do it. Being coachable, though, is a superpower in itself, because I know a lot of people that have too much pride to have someone do something for them. And the only thing that I did well in this whole process is try to document and have everything that is Jacob Emery laid out to as much depth as possible. And I met Dane. I think she was part-time for a few days, and then the fourth or fifth day, I'm calling Amber on the hotline, like, Amber, you cannot give her to anybody else. Don't put her full-time now. Expedite it. And I gave her the keys to the car. As I took them out, and I just literally said, Dane, drive this thing, because I can't drive worth a shit. And you can. So let's go. That was the best decision I ever made. I trusted her because of you and the foundation laid in that onboarding process that was so seamless. I knew right away the best thing I could do is be willing to accept handing over the keys, maybe hitting a few bumps in the road as it transitions, but knowing that them few bumps are going to be way better than me driving down that road, because it's a hell of a lot more bumpy when I'm driving.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, all hats off to, so as much as that story is wonderful, Ryan and Amber have put such incredible thought work in it, so much detail, so much process. They've made it just something that we were doing ad hoc, like on the fly, and made it really repeatable, measurable, scalable. And we've continued to just refine and get better and better at it with each hire. And so over the last several years, it's just been a great blessing to not just see the success of Superpowers, and I love hearing the feedback, but truly to get to see people like you just absolutely unleashed. Is forget money, forget anything. For me, that is just so fulfilling, so rewarding. I feel truly rich when I see Jacob Emery's, just and it's because, we were a part of putting a great person with the right training, with the right, all together. It's very satisfying.
We talked about momentum a lot in our last coaching session. And, I think it was the 1 + 1 = 3 theory with a horse that was brought up, where two horses can take on an extra 50% of weight capacity when they work together in comparison to what they would do individually.
Clydesdales.
And that is what it feels like to have, exactly. And that's the example that I was speaking on. And that's what it feels like to have a assistant from Superpowers, for anyone listening. 1 + 1 = 3 with it. And trust me, it don't make any damn sense half the time, but I'm telling you the truth. That is exactly what happens. The momentum and the acceleration that it creates for you as an entrepreneur, or just anybody, honestly. I would recommend it to anybody that needs help in certain areas. It is worth every dime that you spend, and then some.
Thanks, man. Thank you. And fun fact just on this subject.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. So we're writing a book right now on this subject, right? So it's going to be a book. It's going to be called Superpowered. And in fact, it's already on Amazon for pre-sale. But what's really cool is, there's a lot of books on this type of teamwork. But a lot of times it's, buy back your time. There's different things that come to people's mind, and people get a sense of okay, if I can, get this time back, then, I can do more, I can reposition. what I really think at its peak, what your experience is not just getting your time back. Tell me if this resonates with you. It actually slows down time. Like the time it slows down time, so that you're just operating on another level.
Because you're only doing what you want. You know, I don't know if this resonates with you or not. 1,000% does, because I've actually talked to Dan Martell the last few months, and like personally on a pretty decent level, because his book is incredible.
It's an awesome book.
I highly recommend Buy Back Your Time to anybody.
For sure.
Because you buy back your time, but it does slow down because you're doing only what you want. And I think it's not only the reality of being within your unique ability, it's also being present with what you're doing because you absolutely love it. You're not doing the things that you suck at and you hate, that are the bottlenecks that we've all endured as, you know, especially starting out as entrepreneurs. The beginning days are the toughest. And it's like this phase of life that you just start to understand the world differently. And it's not just so you can do more. It's actually so you can do less, just accelerate the value a lot more, because you're only doing these few things that you really want to do that create the most value in the marketplace. And once you pinpoint what them things are, and that's all you do, man, it just accelerates everything. You look at Richard Branson, you know, Dan talks a lot about Richard Branson, and, you know, he worked like 2 hours a day maybe, and that was it. But he did a few things that he excelled at, and everyone around him took him to the moon, you know. But he only had to do these few things to get to where he wanted to go.
For sure.
And as we do more of what we're great at and our unique ability, and that's all that we do, we actually do a lot less. And we do what we're really good at. It's almost effortlessly that it's, you know, accomplished. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful. It's understanding the world and how the world works in itself is something that is hard to understand when you're in this, I call it a bureaucratic hamster wheel. I don't know if Dan says that or it's just something I had heard or put together. But, you know, in the blue collar workforce that I'm familiar with in my background, I have seen so many people miserable, hate their life, wake up every day, hate what they do, hate what clothes they put on, hate what they eat. And a lot of it is a lack of awareness, but also poor choices. So the lack of awareness, you know, that I got diabetes, you know, I'm drinking Mountain Dew and eating a bag of donuts for breakfast, and I wonder why at 9 o'clock I feel like I'm having a heart attack. You know, I can't figure it out. I don't know where I connect the dots at there. It's a lack of awareness, a lack of willingness to change. You know, it's so common in our industry. And that's what this show is all about. I want to help people just, if nothing else, if I don't create enough value to educate or to help other people, I want them to be aware that the way we've always done it is probably not the best way.
Yeah.
And that's how the introduction for the show starts. The way we've always done it's not the best way, because that rugged individual that is prideful and me, and I, happy hour every night, I can tell you there's a hell of a lot better life out on the other side. Just willing to change your environment. Step out and be different is the first step, and just wanting something different. Dan talks about, I want what I want. You don't need to explain it. You know, saying no can be a complete sentence. If someone comes to you and says, hey, you want to go to happy hour? Nope. That's all you need to say. No is a complete sentence. You want what you want out of life. Mm-hmm. Don't apologize for it, and don't ask for forgiveness for it. Be willing to take some controversy throughout it. You're going to get hated on. We're all going to die anyways, though. You might as well do what you want. And whenever you look at what happens in life, and, you know, there's a picture that I used to reference. It was an alcoholic father, or two sons of an alcoholic. And one of them's homeless, and the other one is walking down the street with a suit and tie, handing the homeless one, you know, something to eat. They both came from the same background. One became the adversity that he hated, so he became the person he hated. The other one overcame it and became someone that would have been the superhero to that younger version. And I know for myself, the superhero that I admire today is me in 10 years, because I can never let myself down. If I'm always striving to be my own superhero in 10 years, it's an unachievable goal, but I will always strive to be that person. That means I'm always doing what is best for myself and the people I love. You put that faith in someone else and you can be disappointed. And so that's how I've always kind of looked at it. And I'm sure you can relate to that. But knowing what you want out of life is so powerful. And strategic coach, man, Stephen, I tell you what, strategic coach is so incredible for me. I didn't feel like I belonged until probably a year and a half ago. And every time I walk in that room now, I feel like I am on freaking fire. I feel I belong. It's an environment that I just absolutely crave and I cannot get enough of. And talk about strategic coach for you, because I know you've been involved in strategic coach since I think 2005. You were in the program for 14 or 15 years and then became a coach in 19. So talk about what it's done for you and just the growth that you've had, and then the people that you meet throughout it is so freaking incredible. So talk about what strategic coaches do.
Yeah. So if I could, I want to circle back to one thing you said, okay? So one thing I want to circle back to was this idea and that wanting what you want, right? In the power of that, and the two guys, right? And the two guys and being the hero. One thing that I would say, and this relates, it'll circle into coach, is if I could draw like one little asterisk that I think that I've observed is sometimes we don't even know what we want, right? So we're wanting what we want. I'll use an example. I know you got kids. So my kids would probably want what they want, and they would want ice cream every day for every meal if I'd let them, right? And I have to tell them no, right? Because I have the wisdom to know that that's not good for them. That's going to hurt them. That's not going to be good, right? And so one of the things that I've observed is, and this ties into coach, because coach has been absolutely transformational for me. It's given me, and I can talk about all these, the freedom of time, money, relationships, purpose. I've been a part of the program 20 years. Next to my grandpa, it's got to be a 0.1 millipoint of difference. I mean, in regards to impact of my life, absolutely transformational. In fact, probably some of my grandpa's transformation is really, that was the raw material that coach has transformed. That all being said, what I've noticed is when you're becoming the guy, the two guys you mentioned, when you become the guy, when you're growing towards becoming the guy that would be the hero of the other guy who struggled, sometimes if you can hold that what you want loose enough that you're willing to be wrong, to put it aside for something better, sometimes in the pursuit you will have what I'm going to call for now strategic byproducts, like things that you didn't know were possible, that you didn't know that they even want, but when you're paying attention and you feel that nudge and you go for it, it may have been what you might have had a 10-year target that you're locked in on, and I'm going to achieve it, that you've gone 9 years towards, and you're almost there, and you're at that, at the goal line, and then you realize you just got to divert, to the left or the right. You just couldn't see it from where you started. I think that's the one time that I don't know, being probably a little bit, but I when I put my yes on that yes, it might have not been what I wanted. I may not even understood in the moment why it was important, but I just felt like I was supposed to do it. Maybe I didn't even want to do it, but I felt like I was supposed to do it. More times than not, that has been exponentially more valuable and powerful and rewarding and fulfilling than what I wanted. So the one asterisk I guess I would say is, if your purpose, you ever feel called to something more than even what you want, and in fact it might be something you don't want, I would just want to, for me, anyone listening, I'd want my kids to know that it's okay to be wrong in what you thought you wanted. And
it does change, and it can change. And I thank you for clarifying that. Go ahead.
No, and so on to coach, right? So on to coach. Nearly 20 years ago, I joined Strategic Coach. And in the history of coach, there's probably never been a lower qualifier. I literally qualified to join Strategic Coach by $1. They had a minimum threshold at the time of $100,000 personal income. I had $100,001, and that was including a rental property. And literally, I mean, I wish there was some sexy story, but I literally had a friend that I went to college with who had joined a few years earlier, and the guy had, basically doubled his income, and he was working half as much. And I literally looked at the guy and I was like, okay, he's only a little bit better looking than me. He's only a little bit smarter. As I could surely get half the results this guy got from this program. And so I joined because I was still struggling with the business. The business owned me. I owned no business. I had a job, and it was a miserable experience. I joined because I wanted to make more money. What I got out of Coach is money for sure, but it's probably the least valuable thing I got. I got freedom of relationships, and not just, having clients that were, being able to say no, and that be a complete sentence to clients that really didn't value what we did, and choosing to not do any more business with people that didn't value what we did. To actually understanding how to create more value for the right people, and building relationships and creating value for people that like you, that I love, and it's just it's a win. To purpose, when I joined Coach, I would have said on the subject of purpose, if you asked me what it was, I would say treat others the way you want to be treated. And while I would say that now is still true, I have much more clarity in how my purpose can align with people I want to be a hero to. I have clarity on how I'm uniquely equipped, and I believe almost divinely appointed to do those things. And when I do those two things, everything else falls into place. So when I got relationship and purpose locked in, and I'm serving others, just good things happen. The money always works itself out. Let's put it that way.
So awesome. The first thing that impacted me from Coach was the entrepreneur time system. My first true focus day, Stephen, I was a 55 to 60% efficient buffer day, 7 days a week person before Coach. And my first focus day, I had 16 hours worth of work lined up, 2 8-hour days. And after the 6-hour mark on the first day, I had nothing left to do, and I had a better quality product than I'd ever had before. And I thought, oh shit, this is going to change my life. Because it was so fast and instant from one day.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Because I was only focused on what I was focused on working on that day, and these things had to be done. And when I got through day one's, agenda and started on days two just to see what it would look like, and realized after 6 hours I was done, I thought, there's something here. There's something to unlock here.
You're cooking with some bacon, man.
Then when you do your profile, that's it. And when you do your profile and you learn what your Colby index is, and then you learn what your strengths are with the Clifton Strength Finder and the Print Survey, it's like, wow, this all makes perfect freaking sense. I have never, thought of this or understood this. I really do suck at this thing that I thought I was good at. But it creates so much clarity about who you are. And understanding who you are is the first step to understanding what your future looks like. And then, kind of like what you said earlier, what you want out of life. Sometimes it changes based on understanding yourself. And sometimes it's hard. And getting it right and not being right and accepting that is one of the primary things for success as a team and a business or any type of relationship. Getting the thing right is the most important. Whether it was your idea or your thought or you got proved wrong is really irrelevant.
Yep.
It really does not matter as long as the thing ends up being right at the end.
I think it's really important because I think the point you're making there is really important for us to be reminded of and for people to understand, because when you double down that this is, what I thought my definition of success was, and you're not open to that, evolving or changing or being directed, to a higher purpose or calling. I think sometimes you see people, especially in the entrepreneur world, they put their ladder up against the wrong wall. They climb to the top and they create this, maybe a big financial windfall, maybe something, really, really, great in the eyes of many people. It's like you get lots of external accolades. People will applaud you. You're awesome. You're the man. You're really great. I'm so grateful that you did that for us. You're changing my life. But as much as for example, you saying the nice things to me, like that's great. But if that's my motivator, or my motivator is to seek approval of Jacob Emery, or if of having a nice car or money or house or whatever, like if that's my motivator, my driver, there's just like, you can get to the top of the ladder and you just realize like it's vapor, man. It is vapor, right? So knowing that the byproduct is Jacob Emery is like, thank you so much. You're awesome. I already felt fulfilled, even if, it's a people business. Let's say you hated dating, whatever, right? Like it's a people business. You're never going to be perfect. But I know that I feel really, really confident and fulfilled that we are doing excellent work, and more times than not, we're getting it right. Does that make sense? And so the fulfillment is in that journey. The money, the applause, any of that stuff they're just byproducts. And so that is a place where the ladder is limitless. You don't get to the top of the ladder. They're just milestones in the journey, because you just want to keep scaling the impact you're making, instead of some destination you're trying to reach.
So incredible. There is no final destination for me. There is a next destination. There will never be a final one. And getting to that destination isn't the real reward. The real reward is, having the thing isn't as fun as trying to get the thing, and facing the obstacles and overcoming them, and understanding, who you are. Once you have them, it's really not that fun. And then some people's like, well, what's the point of success? And I always thought that buying R&R Pipeline was going to be my ceiling. I thought I was going to be king shit. I'm the man. Put this crown on me. I own this company at 30 years old. And when I worked 12 years for that accomplishment, Stephen, I thought for sure I was going to feel a certain way.
You made it.
And then we bought the company. We made it, right? Well, 407 days, my net worth at the close, my last PFS I did to buy R&R Pipeline, my net worth was $37,000, and we bought a multi-million-dollar company. That's where the 37K comes from on my logo. So kind of like what you said earlier about the $1, above the buy-in level, I was about 3 zeros and a couple commas behind what a low level would have been for what I needed to be at. And what I didn't realize throughout the 12 years was I didn't enjoy the process that much. I was an uplifting and happy person, by nature, because I couldn't stand being around pessimistic people. So I was constantly trying to lift people up, but I didn't fall in love with that process. Looking back now, I understand it. 12 years for one goal. And 2 days after we bought the company, I woke up and I felt so empty inside. I could not figure out why. I thought, this is the day I'm supposed to rejoice and be successful when I'm the king shit and all this. And what I perceived as Mount Everest wasn't. I'm sitting here scratching my head and I'm just realizing it's not this feeling I thought. Why is it not? And because I had this external accolade now that I didn't have before. And what I realized was, on this climb or to this next destination, look at it like climbing up a mountain, and you're faced with this tall task and climbing up this mountain, and then you get to the mountaintop. So 12 years for one goal, 6 or 7 days, sacrificing literally everything. 6 months, I thought, if this don't work out, I'm going to lose it all. I get up on the mountain. 2 days later, I'm more pitted and empty than I've ever been in my life. And what I realized was, once I got up on top of that mountain, it was kind of cloudy. I could look down and see where I'd been, but I couldn't see anything else because I was on top of the mountain, right? I'm in the clouds. And then the cloud cover came and just passed over. And then I look around and I thought, that was just a step. And that mountain now that took me 12 years to get to, I look back and I can't even see it anymore. It was just part of the process. And so that thing that is so unachievable in life and so far away, ends up becoming the internal climb is a success. Enjoying that day to day. So for me, it was, 12 years, all this hardship and all this overcoming adversity, all the stuff that I went through. I get up on this mountain and I didn't feel anything. But now I look back at that mountain and can barely see it. What I realized was the success was actually that mountain, and it was the climb. And climbing up that mountain is what made me feel successful now. I understand it. Where it's an internal thing, dude. I love what I do. And I have goals and things I want to accomplish like everybody else. And that's just part of the journey. But the joy is that journey. The process is the joy. And it's all the journey. And, diving into that and understanding that from a personal level, from strategic coach is why. Everything that never made sense my entire life about me, all made sense after coach. But that was the one outlier that I didn't understand. And so like this show, the podcast, someone asked me, multiple people have asked me, what will it take for it to be successful? Well, it already has. And they're like looking at me like, why? Like, well, I got to interview my grandpa for an hour and a half. No matter what, it's successful because of that.
Come on.
I interviewed my daughter before she started. I interviewed my daughter before kindergarten. And I will do that every year. And when she graduates high school, she's going to have 18 years of doing a podcast interview with her dad or however many years of school she'll go to. And I will have that all put together for her. And I'll do it every year. It's already a success. And now it's like an honor and a privilege. I get to talk to people like you and me. I met Ryan because of this. I've met a lot of very, very badass individuals because of this. And for me, that is success. And all of it stems from adversity. So taking my shirt off in front of other people and talking, public speaking, being on camera of any type of sort, my two biggest fears in life, and I face them every day now. And that foundation of adversity is what led me to the iron that has completely built the infrastructure and who I am today. And so tying it all back together, understanding that success is the internal feeling that you get for doing what you do, providing value. And in our case, we both love helping other people. We want to expedite others' journey to help them get through what they're going through because we don't want them to suffer the way we did.
Well said.
And the side of it is financial gain. Yeah.
And the byproduct to that is, or not byproduct, the tie into that is coach. To me, Dan Sullivan is a master thinker and tool maker. And however you want to be mentored by the man, whether it's podcasts, reading his books, going to strategiccoach.com, signing up for one of his programs, to me, he's one of the most brilliant minds I've ever encountered in any of those ways. And so, and he's a master tool maker. And if you will just lean into and ask yourselves authentically, honestly, in integrity, the questions that his questions and tools and frameworks take you through, you will more quickly and easily able to discern what is actually a mountain worth climbing and what's something that's just going to take you to a false summit where you're going to be really disappointed because you got to go back down and climb something else up.
So good. First of all, Stephen, I need you to do me a favor, try to get Dan on the show because I know he's talked a lot about blue collar workforce in the next 30 years and his initiative and direction with what he thinks is, the future of the economy in the States. I actually just heard a clip of his today talking about the blue collar workforce and how AI is going to transform the need for blue collar workers. And that's something that I've been on for a couple of years. And that's why, I kind of came up with a pipeline of prosperity and this show is a prime example of what my initiative is for the future of blue collar workforce. And getting them to understand concepts and tools from coach at a base level just to figure them things out. A lot of people go through life and do things that make no sense. They don't know that they want to do them or don't, but they do them anyways. And just being clear, having clarity.
Yeah.
And I got to reference this from our last coach. So I walked in thinking I had priority awareness and clarity. And I walked out thinking that I clearly don't know what the hell I'm doing. And it's amazing, though, when you get around people, when your mind opens up in a group of coach, entrepreneurs in there. And right when you walk in thinking like, yeah, man, I I figured it out. I got all these things that I knew that I needed to overcome. I got my superpowers now. Dane has expedited my journey. I have all these things implemented. I think I got clarity. I walk in clear and I get smacked across the eyeballs with a bunch of mud, and I walk out not being able to see a damn thing. It's like, oh my God, what just happened? But it was clear after coach.
Yeah.
And right when you think you have clarity, you can be humbled very quickly. Just ask myself.
Yeah. Well, and look, I'm glad you brought that up, because you said a lot of days, a lot of times people do things that just make no sense, right? And every day, Jacob, I will tell you, I get up and I do things that don't make sense, right? And here, I'll even go so far to say I'm a coach, right? I'm supposed to be this, and I say supposed to. I don't think anyone really probably believes it, but ideally, you've made some sort of progress, right? And I have. But what I can tell you is I'm shocked at how often those moments you just described are things that I actually thought I overcame. So, I'm a good steward financially, and I've got a handle on Monday, and I feel like my relationship is healthy with money. But okay, that was at this amount. Now this is in your life. Now is money now an idol? Is it more important? Would I be more upset if I lost that, or could I go back to? Like, all those issues continue to repeat themselves in the business, right? Oh, I got this team member, they're underperforming, right? Am I having the hard conversations? Or am I enabling it, right? And I might think, man, it's all firing. And then I realize, and all of a sudden I see, and it's like, man, I'm doing it again. I'm avoiding that conversation, right? And so as much as I would love to say that, there have really been truly times where I've experienced massive growth in an area and massive pain, to the point where I thought I was mountaintop. I mean, when I was in the insurance business and we had private equity behind us, and I was buying companies and rolling them up, I was a master at having very difficult conversations often. I mean, I was doing it a lot because people were a part of this company one day, and next thing, maybe the owner held it close to the vest, and now all of a sudden, boom, I just sold, I'm out, I got paid millions of dollars, this is your new company, right? People go through all sorts of emotions, everything else. And so, man, you want to talk about someone's having difficult conversations? I was all over that. So much so that I was like, I got this. Until, guess what? I'm struggling with something. I don't even know what it is. But it's the same thing wrapped up in a new package and a new person. And it's the same thing again. And it's my own same blind spot or weakness. But what's so beautiful about Coach and all the entrepreneurs in the room, like you said, is Dan's tooling, thinking about your thinking. Why are you doing the things you're doing? Why are you struggling with this thing? So a lot of times you're not even clear, because it's part head knowledge, it's part heart, it's part emotions, it's all kinds of things, right? And so breaking that down, getting clarity on it, and then talking to other people, and it mirrors back to you, and then you have this new epiphany. It's like, oh my gosh, I've done it again. I need to go talk to this person. I'm sitting here like all twisted up in a pretzel. And I thought, I was doing great, but man, there's another level. Here we go. So anyway, I'm glad you brought that in, because I think for anyone, any place, that is the story of being human. And if you're just a growth-minded person, I think, there's hope, because there's always another level. There's always another level,
Right. Progress, not perfection. This is a journey. The joy is in that journey, not that destination. And if no one's ever going to have perfection in their life. Perfection, like Dan talks about, is an ideal, and he has tools to overcome that. And just progressing and being realistic with yourself and your team and the people that you care about, and understanding that you're going to fail, probably more than you're going to succeed. And, I heard this the other day, Stephen. 99% of the time, the world was right about me, that I was going to be a failure. I should have been by 21, I should have been in jail or dead. That was my ceiling of success in high school. Mm-hmm. And 99% of the people in the world that thought that were right. But the one time that I made the change made me 100% right, because I did the thing that I set out to do. And so 99% of the time, people are going to be right about us. But that one time we succeed in what we want to do makes us 100% right.
And well said. And
that's powerful.
And it's compounding. Back to where we started at the beginning of this podcast. You hit the gym, you make the change, you're getting stronger. You may not look stronger. No one may even know it. Inside, you know you're doing right. You're doing the right things for the right reasons. And eventually, you're going to start seeing fruit from that, right? And that's you're going to be stronger. You're going to look better. You're going to have more energy, right? All back to where we started the day.
Mm-hmm. So I gotta go to this. Whether it be superpowers or strategic coach, if people are questioning it, I just have to put this out there for you.
Yep.
If you're questioning if it's worth the cost, well, it's not a cost, it's an investment. Mm-hmm. And my attorney told me something once that I will never forget. When we asked him, he joined us in this journey. We didn't pay him anything until we closed on the deal. And it's 407 days, and you can imagine what that bill looked like. And we accomplished something that was perceived as impossible. And when asked the question, can we afford to pay you? He said, you can't afford to not have me on your team. And it was like, oh shit. Then the leap of faith he took in us. Powerful. Powerful. So I will leave you with this audience that is questioning whether or not the investment of superpowers or strategic coach is worth it. You cannot afford not to join or not to go to superpowers and get your virtual assistant. If you're having pain points, the worst thing that would ever happen is you spend money and it doesn't work out for you and you go back to where you were at. But what could happen is a very, very quick life-changing evolution for yourself and generations of your family and people that have hardships similar to yours. It can change everything by just commitment. Committing will change it all once you commit.
And if I could be so bold, because that's so well said, I would say there's one place people could go that would be worse than being right back where they started, is not making the investment, being right back where they started, but losing hope. When people lose hope, because there we go again, the assistant didn't work out, or the coaching didn't work out, or whenever people end back in that spot, and I've been there, when you lose hope, it is a killer. It is a killer. So make the investment for something proven.
It is a killer of confidence.
Yep. And make the investment on something proven. Whatever it is, it's worth the investment to work something proven. And coach is 100% proven. I mean, I've met more incredible entrepreneurs that have been a part of the program 20, 30 years that can teach master classes in any type of entrepreneurial subject you want, yet they sit in a workshop every quarter with people like me and Jacob learning, right? They could buy and sell us 20 times over and have more skins on the wall than we know, but they're on the field, they're still learning, they're still curious, they're still growing. That's a proven process to me, if there ever was one.
Well, and I'll take that further, Stephen, because,
come on,
Dane, the hire of Dane, the proven process there is 10x my life and 100x my production and evolution in less than probably 90 days. I think we're at maybe 90 days. And I'm telling you what, the person that I was December 31 of last year to the person I am today, I don't recognize that other person. It has been that transformative for me. And I cannot thank you enough. I cannot recommend Superpowers highly enough. She is the COO of my life, and she operates that way. And she pretty much runs my life. And I could not be sitting here and doing some of the things today that I am if it wasn't for her, because there's a huge transition that happened right when she joined my team. And I'm telling you what, Stephen, I would have never been able to navigate. I would be in literal hell right now if it wasn't for her. She's the sole reason why my head has been above water the last 5 months.
Well done, Dane. And you too, Jacob.
Well done, Dane. Well done, Stephen and Ryan. Amber, shout out to Amber. I'm still trying to get her on the podcast once she gets healed up. So Chief Happiness Officer, she has done an excellent job as well. And I want to tie one thing together, Stephen, and then we'll let you get out of here. I'm sure you're a busy man, but we talk about confidence, and commitment is the beginning point to becoming confident. I was not confident when I started this podcast. If I said I'm 100% confident when I started this, you would have smacked me upside the head and said, you're a damn liar or a fool or both. I don't know which. But saying that you're 100% confident in something is rare, because to be 100% confident is bold in itself and is more than likely somewhat inaccurate, we'll say that. But commitment of 100% is something that you can say, do, and live by. So I call it Pursuit 151. And Pursuit 151 is having 100 shares of commitment, 100 shares of confidence. And this is kind of similar to a 4C's concept out of Coach, but for me, it was powerful to hear and put this together. So part of the program, the Pipeline of Prosperity that I'm working on, Pursuit 151, you have 100 shares of commitment and 100 shares of confidence. You have to be all in with 100 shares of commitment, but only 51% confident before taking on an endeavor. So this podcast, I was 100% committed to it because of the outcome that I desire to have and my intent. But I was only 51% confident because my ability or the complete lack thereof. And even to date, I would say maybe 80% confident on what I'm doing, but I constantly learn. And then the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know a damn thing. So Pursuit 151 is all about understanding that I link my confidence to my intent and not my ability. Because if you link it to your ability, you're linking it to an outcome or desired thing and not what your purpose and passion behind the thing is. So I link confidence to my intent, which Pursuit 151 for me is just that. You got to be all in on committing to something or don't do it. And if you're not 100% committed, then just don't. If you're 51% confident and 100% committed, go for it if that's what you want. And if you're not at least 51% confident, you need to go back to the drawing board and see if it's something that can really be achieved, if it's something that you really want. And if you're not at least 51%, Stephen, you don't know enough to do it. So you should probably wait and go back to the drawing board and kind of not pursue it yet. Because it's not time, or you're not ready, or you don't have enough who's around you. That in itself helped me so much and create so much clarity that my confidence comes from my intention and my effort and not from my ability. Because if I linked everything to my ability, we wouldn't be sitting here. But I have great intentions and I'll put in a hell of a lot of effort. And the last thing I'll say, I live my life like I call it persistent patience. I'm persistent in my pursuit. I'm all in on my effort, my intent, and I'm patient with the result, because the outcome is not on my timeline. It is on the timeline that it's meant to be. And I've pushed things too far and not achieved the desired outcome because of my aggressiveness in nature. And just like Strategic Coach, being persistent in the pursuit, finding that joy in the journey, back to that, will eventually help you accomplish the outcome that you desire and ultimately the freedom that we desire in life. And I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but man, understanding them few things for me just completely changed me as a person. And now I try to share that with other people just to showcase, hey, it's okay that you're not confident in this thing, but you want it, and that's great. And you are willing to commit 100%. So let's figure out how to get you more confident. And if you're at least that confident in it, commit to it, because then, as I'll leave it for you to explain the 4 C's, but you commit, the confidence follows. You got to be all in, though.
I love Pursuit 151. Did I get the number right?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that, man. I love that. One thing that I think I just want to acknowledge you for, and I think anyone who's listening to this can maybe reflect on themselves. It's something I think about often. I think that there is something that underlies all of that is really important, and you can work on it at any level. At any level. Doesn't matter if you're confident or not, if you're an entrepreneur or not, but it's groundwork. It's work you can do on the soil so that when the seed hits, that it has a chance of really sprouting, growing, all of that. And it's actually another C, and it's character. And I think part of the reason why Pursuit 151 works, part of the reason why Dan's 4 C's, which is you make a commitment and then you do something even though you're afraid. Maybe you draw the distinction between, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to wet your pants, but you need to do it with wet pants on. That's using courage. It's okay to lean into that courage. And if you lean that courage long enough and you're paying attention, you'll develop the capability. And as you get more expertise, reach new levels with that capability, you eventually become confident. And that's where the confidence comes in Dan's model. But the underlying all of that, Pursuit 151, Dan's brilliant model of the 4 C's is character. Everybody can work on character. And I know when I tell the truth, and I know myself as a person that tells the truth, I'm more likely when I make a commitment to really mean it. Okay? But if I'm in a habit of making little white lies, little shortcuts here or there, I can get away with this, I don't have to pay as much in taxes. I may not be saying it directly, but deep down in my subconscious, in my heart, in my spirit, I know that I'm not a person of character, and I don't trust myself quite as much. And so I just can't underscore that enough, because I've watched you and I've watched a lot of people, and the more you don't have to overcome your own character, the more people move through 4 C's faster, the more Pursuit 151s go faster. It begins with character, and you got a lot of it, man. So just really grateful for that.
Well, I appreciate that. Stephen. Coming from you, that's such a compliment at the highest degree.
Thanks, man.
Authenticity and being who you are is incredibly powerful. When you link authenticity with intent and effort, man, everything just kind of changes. And thank you for elaborating on that, because character is one of the most important things. Being authentic and having good character and good intention mixed with great effort and wanting to create value in the marketplace ultimately ends up becoming the 4 freedoms. And, swallowing your pride, be willing to be wrong. Thank you for coming on, Stephen. My God, there's so much value in this podcast.
Thank you.
I feel like I have superpowers now. I don't know what just happened. I'm starting to feel this cape itching under my shirt right now.
I'm gonna get you a cape made, man. I mean, I'll tell you what.
You should. I'll put it on the show. I'll use it as my backdrop if you want.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot through this show. Pursuit 151 is very sticky too. So make sure you get the trademark quick so I can give you appropriate credit when I reuse it. Okay, I will give you credit, because that's a great model. I love that.
I should probably do that. I have some other things that I should probably get trademarked too. And after Strategic Coach, I learned the value in having a trademark is pretty actually substantial. So Superpowers HQ, is that what's the website?
Superpowershq.com, Superpowers EA for executive assistant.com, both work. And strategiccoach.com, that's pretty explainable. If you're curious about anything else that we didn't talk about, children's books, maybe one of those is on identity, because bullying's never going to stop if you got kids. It's as old as time. So how do you pour the right things in your kids and build them so that they have that they're ready for it and that it doesn't affect them as much, right? And so I've got a book called Are You a Tree? All that can be found at StephenJNuener.com. Stephen with a V, J as in Joseph, Nuener, Neuner.com. Love to connect.
Stephen Nuener, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't look into Stephen Nuener himself and the programs he's affiliated with, the businesses he's affiliated with. I have never met a higher character coach in my life who is willing to be vulnerable and use his personal adversity to help other people overcome theirs. Stephen, thank you for being you. Thank you for being my coach, my friend, my brother. Absolutely love you. I cannot wait to see you again here soon. And thanks for coming on the show. It was an absolute pleasure.
Love it, brother. It's been awesome, man. Thanks so much. Go keep killing it.
This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to maxeffortmuscle.com.